personally.
Yeah. First, a little disclaimer on VAR. I think that VAR helps the game. We haven't really been used to it yet, and it still needs to be relegated. But it helps the game, and it was shown in this game. I was talking to my friend earlier on today. He's a Chelsea fan, and he was a Liverpool fan. My bad, and he was extremely happy for the fact that those goals were cancelled. It was very close. Imagine if we didn't have VAR, Chelsea would have won that final, which they shouldn't have. Yeah, but in terms of the game, I want to present you guys with two questions. Where do you think Pulisic and Mount, where do you think their future lays? Because Chelsea have a very young squad, and that there are many young squads around Europe, and with these young players, for example, John Felix, Mbappe, Haaland, they may not have like great forms like from here, there, but you can see the talent in them, and you can tell that they will reach levels like beyond their years soon. But with Pulisic and Mount, I don't think that it will happen with them. And it was shown in this game that you can't be missing those chances in a final. Havertz, for example, he's been criticized on has been his form throughout the last few seasons. He does his things in the finals, but during the season he's not that guy. However, Havertz has shown that potential, but with Mount and Pulisic, I don't really see that. What do you guys think? What do you think the ceiling is for those two?
Let's start off with yourself, Craig. What do you think about
that? It's a really good question, actually. If you're asking me if their ceiling is the level of some of the other players you mentioned there, then absolutely not. I can't see a Christian Pulisic or a Mason Mount ever being spoken about in the same sort of breath as an Mbappe or a Haaland over the next 7 to 10 years. Mason Mount, I think, will be at Chelsea for a long, long time. I think he's got the potential to be a long-term Chelsea starter. And I think he'll go on and win Premier Leagues and maybe another Champions League with Chelsea. I think he'll be an England starter. I'm on record saying that I quite rate Mason Mount. I think he's probably got the better ceiling of the two. I think Christian Pulisic, you're right about him being young and lots of creative young players at Chelsea. I think he's going to have to make a decision pretty quickly of whether or not he wants to be a bench warmer at Chelsea, or whether he maybe drops down a level, maybe plays in the Continent or other Premier League club and plays week in, week out. But I don't think Christian Pulisic, if Chelsea have got ambitions of winning, league titles and winning in Europe like they will do, I don't think Christian Pulisic is a week in, week out starter for me for a side that's looking at that. And I would put Hudson-Odoi in that bracket. I'd put Timo Werner in that bracket. I think there's a lot of young players that Chelsea have brought through, had a look at, but probably won't be there for the next 4 or 5 years. And yeah, Christian Pulisic for me won't be a long-term Chelsea starter. But Mason Mount, I can see it. I think Mason Mount's a really talented player. What about yourself, Adam? What's your sort of general thoughts on the two?
I have to agree with what your sentiments are. I mean, think about, we haven't even mentioned Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for example. We've got Sam Gallagher that's going to come back as well, potentially. I think he's really good player, but whether he get the game time, I mean, look, you've got Kovacic, you've got Kante in that middle, potentially, as the first choice kind of midfielders alongside Mason Mount. So I think it's going to be really interesting in this summer whether the likes of Pulisic, I don't know where Ruben Loftus-Cheek kind of fits. I know he played in the FA Cup match against Luton yesterday, but I don't know whether Chelsea's going to be that club really. On Pulisic, great play on his day. I mean, he showed it at Dortmund, for example. I think when he does play for Chelsea, he kind of puts on the performance. But yeah, something about Tuchel, he kind of maybe doesn't see the consistency with him, and he does seem to trust Mason Mount a lot. I think on our pods, Craig, you may recall at the beginning of, I think it was last season, both of us weren't too sure about Mason Mount, and then he turned it on, didn't he, towards the middle of that season when I think it was around Lampard leaving, even though Lampard had developed and trusted him in terms of what his ability. But I don't know. I get this feeling that he needs to work on his, finishing end product, shall we say. I think, if he takes those 2 chances, for example, against Liverpool, that is a different storyline in terms of the way the game goes out. Andy, go full circle. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mason Mount is a good player. And I think, especially with like centre mids, he's only 23 years old. And a lot of centre-mids tend to mature probably, will become more rounded 3 or 4 years into the game. You know, I'll give you an example, is say Bruno Fernandes. It's only really since he hit 25, 26, he started putting in the serious numbers. When he was at Sporting Lisbon, before that, he was at Navarro, and I think was it Sampdoria he was at previously. And you think, you know, in his early 20s, you know, if you just said 6 years ago, would Bruno Fernandes be the key man for Manchester United, you'd probably be like, well, no. But with Mason Mount, I think the thing that keeps him is in favour that, you know, first of all, he's a homegrown talent. So, you know, if there's a list of players that are going to be sold, he's going to be at the bottom of that list. Secondly, most of the time, he's a 7 out of 10 player. He's always very consistent. So, all right, he misses some chances, but he's quite good at all aspects of the game. He's a good passer, he's a good shooter. And if you just improve a little bit on each of those areas, he will be like a proper, you know, like a box-to-box presence. And I can see why Lampard trusted him. I know Gareth Southgate trust him a lot, and they see him training every day. With Pulisic, I am a fan of his, to be fair, because I think when he's at his absolute best, do you remember that FA Cup final goal he scored against Arsenal?
Yeah,
he was absolutely electric. You know, when he's on form and when he's fit, he is of Chelsea quality. But I guess if you, as Craig said, if you've got desires of winning the league, you've got to be quality for, you know, 30, 35 games in the season, and you've got to be available. And I think that's where Pulisic does fall short, is that you're not going to win a title with players who perform 50% of the time, if that. Again, he's another one where, you know, we all expect, because of how great the level of Haaland and Mbappe is, we kind of have this expectation in our head. So, well, if someone's not at this level by the time they're 23, we're never going to make it. And I think maybe it's worth bearing in mind that, you know, their career paths could just take a slightly different method. But I do agree with Craig that maybe Pulisic will probably be the full guy, because you've got Hakim Ziyech, who's had a really good season, and Chelsea could probably afford to get somebody better.
Let me bring in this one question that we had related to this. So this is from James asking us,